he's with because he keeps jumping from
I've had
three
the
or
same,
four projects.
no, I have the same organization
Okay, let's.
since the day you met me.
Oh, really? Which
Yeah,
one?
the Human Rights Education and Relief Organization.
Okay.
Now our original name was the Campaign for Human Rights and Dignity. 2004 we changed the name to HERO, but what makes us a little unique is we brand our projects distinct from the organization. We find that useful.
Right.
So our big two programs are Movie to Movement. We make movies you've loved like Bella, Crescendo.
Right.
And the Vulnerable People Project that works to defend the vulnerable from violence, from the child in the womb to children, to with the widows and orphans of our Afghan allies in Afghanistan. So that's what makes us a little unique.
All right. But also, too, your passion comes from a horrible experience when you were, right, 17, 18 years,
Yeah.
17. Tell us about that experience.
And I met you not too long after that. And it's like so many people here, I think, have similar, as a filmmaker, inciting incidents, we would call it.
Right.
When I was in basic training as a young soldier, my high school girlfriend was pregnant. She was hiding the pregnancy until I got back from basic training. But her father found out she was pregnant, and he beat her up and took her to get a forced third trimester abortion. Now, my mother had me when she was 16. I never went to church a day in my life. This was the 80s. I knew nothing about religion. I knew nothing about politics. I didn't know that we could destroy the most vulnerable members of our family, the child in the womb. I didn't know that was legal. I didn't know that was a thing until I found out that my child was destroyed by an abortion. And from that day on, since that day, I wanted to order my life to protect children from violence. And I didn't think of abortion as distinct from other forms of violence. I didn't even know there was a pro-life movement. I just thought, I can't believe that these children are exposed to violence. And that's why I think the uniqueness of my organization was birthed with my experience.
Yeah. And so when did you first kind of become a pro-life leader, so to speak, or enter from the time of that abortion? How long did it take you?
Immediately. When I got to my duty station at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, I started going door to door, knocking on doors, and asking people if they knew abortion was legal. I didn't think people knew. So for youngsters, they got to know. There was no Google.
That's right.
There was no computer.
No computers.
I had a library on base with a card catalog, and there was one book on abortion published by Planned Parenthood called Roe v. Wade in Focus. Read that book, and that's all I knew. And so I would go door to door and say, do you know abortion's legal? Should we make it illegal? And I'd give people my phone number and say, will you help me knock on doors?
Oh, wow.
And then call me. And then one day I get a phone call at my base, because it was the desk for the barracks.
Right.
And this lady was really mad at me. And she said, you need to stop telling people you represent our organization. And I said, what organization is that? She said, Hawaii Right to Life. I didn't even know the expression right to life. I said, well, what is that? I go, I'm in the Army. I would never tell someone I work for you. What do you do? We fight abortion. I go, well, I do go door. I was like, we have a group? We have a group. I didn't know we had a group.
So you joined the group, right?
I joined the group. She was mad. Like, why are you telling people you work for us? I'm like, wait, we have a group? And that was it. And as a young man in the Army, when I could, I would volunteer. I would volunteer for the Republican Party as well. And then when I got out of the Army, went to the University of Hawaii, started the Pro-Life Student Union, started the college. We didn't actually have it. We had a very small college Republicans on our campus. I grew that. And, not long after I met you and Father Frank.
Well, tell me about that, because I think Father Frank and I helped you all along, kind of pushing you along.
You always did. And I remember when I came to my first March for Life. To this day, I don't even know how. I was walking across the street, and Father Frank looks over me with a big smile. And I was an atheist, by the way. And I always felt the movement's so big and diverse now.
Right.
30 years ago, the diversity was Brian Kemper and Jason Jones. It was the evangelical guy with tattoos, Brian Kemper,
right,
and the atheist guy from Hawaii, Jason Jones. That was kind of as strange as we got.
Right.
And now, look at it. It's just the most diverse social movement in the world. And that's a lot to do with you guys. Father Frank made us feel welcome. And now I'm Catholic. But I remember crossing the street, and I saw Father Frank, and I was like, that's Father Frank Pavone. And he goes, Jason! And that big warm smile.
Right.
And he waves at me. Hey, Jason. I'm like, he knows my name. Father Frank is smiling, and I'm this atheist. I thought I always felt people they'd always go, you're an atheist, why are you here,
Uh-huh.
And Father Frank had this big smile, Jason. And I'll never forget that.
And eventually, of course, I know you contacted Father when you wanted to become a Catholic, and he kind of helped push you along.
Father Frank, also his example. My high school girlfriend's father was a very prominent Catholic. That was very scandalous. I tell people that I was raised with no religion. My mother had me at 16. We never went to church. But because my high school girlfriend's father, I was raised, my mom was, we didn't have money, but my girlfriend was from a prominent Catholic family in Chicago. Her dad's best friend was Cardinal Bernardine.
Oh, wow.
Best friend. And so this was very scandalous to me that her father would beat her up and then take her to a Masonic hospital for a forced abortion in the third trimester. So my pro-life sentiment and my anti-Catholic prejudice was born together. So here I am, this anti-abortion atheist who really hated Catholics.
Because of what your father was.
I said they're hypocrites, they're phonies, they say one thing with their mouth and they do another thing with their actions, and I was really prejudiced. And so it's through the example and the warmth of Father Frank, never aggressively trying to proselytize me, never shoving a Scott Hahn book in my pocket. But what he did do was lead by example. And then eventually I had to ask, if I believe human beings are worthy of protection from violence, if I believe human beings have this inviolable dignity, what is the source? And I looked all over the world. I read the Quran, I read existentialist philosophers, Nietzsche, Freud, Sartre, Camus, and I eventually came to understand that what we see as self-evident is revealed truth. Only the Christian religion, fully expressed through the teachings of the Catholic Church, has an explanation for this inviolable dignity we have. And I realized either I have to become Catholic or I should just become a nihilist. And I couldn't be a nihilist.
So, Catholic you are.
So Catholic I am.
All right.
If there was a third choice, I might have took it. But there was no other choices for me.
What year did you come into the Catholic Church?
August 6th, 2002. And the reason I picked August 6th is I'm also really, from the very beginning, I was a soldier, and I've written in college, I studied genocide, democide, and total war. And I wanted August 6th, it's the Transfiguration. It's also the anniversary of Hiroshima. So two of my passions are the abolition of strategic nuclear weapons and the ending of abortion. They go together. Archbishop Fulton Sheen said this, Mother Teresa said this. There has to be limits on the use of violence, even in a war. And strategic nuclear weapons that can't distinguish between civilians and combatants, of course, it's obvious.
So I know your passion, besides ending abortion,
Yes,
and work here in the United States, you do a lot of international work. Tell us your current issue that you're working on.
Yeah, so my whole mission from the beginning is to protect fathers, to stand with fathers to help them protect their children.
Right.
So that's led me into a lot of strange places.
Mm-hmm.
So since August of last year, we've been really working, I've been working 20-hour days, 7 days a week in Afghanistan. We are operating across Afghanistan. Just in the past 3 weeks, we've distributed 300,000 packages of food and coal for heat for vulnerable minority families, for the widows and orphans of Afghan allies who were killed in action. Now their wives and children are starving and freezing to death because their husbands died serving the United States and fighting along the United States. So as a former soldier and as a father who can protect his child, I want to stand with these KIA veterans, these heroes, and care for their families. We're rescuing families. We actually are securing schools for girls. We built a women's medical center in Afghanistan. We want to do 99 more. We're securing Catholic parishes in Nigeria that have been exposed to Islamist attacks. We've had 6 parishes secure right now. We're going to do another 20 parishes in the next 8 weeks. People say, you do so much. I go, no, we do one thing. We protect children from violence. We protect the vulnerable from violence. There is no difference between a child in the womb facing abortion or a Yazidi child in Iraq facing genocide from ISIS. And so we want to get between the vulnerable and the violent. And people go, how do you get this done where other human rights groups can't get it done? I'm like, because we're anti-abortion activists.
Yeah.
We can work in the dark. We can work when it looks hopeless, and it's not. We know nothing is insurmountable. We're in a post-war America.
Right.
So I tell people, they go, how do you guys get this done when these huge groups can't get it done? I'm like, we're anti-abortion activists.
Right.
Nothing can stop us.
Right. And also, too, you mentioned before, you weren't that familiar with the Catholic Church, of course, Father Pavone, engaged you. But currently, you're trying to stand up for some cardinals or bishops in China.
Oh, thank you. freeurbishops.com. There are 7 Catholic bishops in black prison sites in China.
Why?
Because they catechize children and provide the sacraments to children, which the CCP and a backroom secret deal with the Vatican, the church said, we won't give sacraments to the children and we won't give religious education to the children. Well, bishops have said, my job is to catechize.
Right.
So we'll catechize. My job is to provide the sacraments, so we'll provide the sacraments. CCP disappeared them, and sadly, the Vatican has been silent. The church has been silent on This week, a priest in Nigeria was set on fire. This week, 50 girls on their way to Catholic school were disappeared in Nigeria. Tens of thousands of Catholic lay people are suffering in prisons in China. The most prominent Catholic man in the world, Jimmy Lai, will probably die in prison for standing up for the faith. And the hierarchy has been silent. I'm not going to grade the Holy Father's homework. I'm not going to grade our bishop's homework. I'm going to do my homework as a Catholic layman.
Right.
And we have a website, freeourbishops.com.
Wow.
And we're presenting this to the Secretary of State of the United States and the Vatican.
And what's the CCB stand for?
It's the Communist Party of China. They have been waging a relentless war on the Catholic faith from 1949, actually even before, until today. And the CCP picked the wrong adversary, because this is my promise. The CCP is going the way of the USSR.
Wow.
The CCP is going the way of Nazi Germany. When you try to step on the Catholic Church, you're not going to crush us. You're going to disintegrate.
Right.
And so, but we, as Americans, are the most powerful Catholic lay people in the history of the world. Look at this right here. Ba-da-da.
Right.
We're talking to you. So, freeourbishops.com. Stand with us as we stand with all our bishops and our lay people in prison in China. We will get them out. We will get them out.
Well, thank you, Jason, and good luck. I'll hold on to this sticker.
Wear my sticker.
I'll wear that
Sign
sticker.
up.
Proud.